stage.
Yeah, you know, when you're just a bit like, ugh. But there again, I don't like taking non-sweaty hands either, so...
I don't often get pictures taken at the end of games. It's not my style to go down to the front to get pictures of the players, but I did get one with Elwar Pelissier after the Catalans game at Magic Weekend in, I think, 2014, maybe 2015. And yeah, somehow he ended up getting closer than I'd anticipated, and I did feel his sweaty shoulder like on my body, on my chest, shoulder area, whereas normally I managed to avoid that. I don't know why I didn't in that instance, but yeah, not nice.
So, you know, none of that, please.
No. As much as I like Elwar.
So Hull FC are set to return to training on July the 20th, reports the League Express, who understand the club have informed players they will report back to the club on that day as they gear up for the Super League return. The competition is preparing to stage a full return on the weekend of the 16th and 17th of August, and this means that the Black and Whites will have 3 full weeks of training before they return to action. Other clubs are in the process of finalising training dates despite no official confirmation on the season's return. However, all 3 of Super League's proposals for a return to action use the same start date, with the end date being the key difference in the 3 plans. Most clubs are expected to take their players off furlough 3 weeks before the first game. So, yeah, again, it's one of those stories that you think, yes, things are going to move forward. We are going to maybe get rugby again.
Reasons for optimism, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if we think we're going to have a decision by the end of June, then 3 week in that 3 week next 3 week period, the clubs will be building up to bringing their players back in over that 3 weeks, and then we'll have 3 or 4 weeks before the games start again, or potentially only 1 or 2 weeks for the teams that have to make up fixtures that'll be playing earlier in August, we suspect. So it's people talk about there not being a plan or whatever, and stuff, but I think it's all coming together in this era.
I think so. You know, we don't have a coach, but you know, at least the players will be back in training.
So what is the position on that? Obviously, Andy Last, is he going to be in charge? Have they announced anything about the longevity of his caretaking?
Absolutely nothing.
No. Fair enough.
I suspect he's on furlough.
Yeah, true, he will be, yeah.
But, you know, whether he's furloughed on...
He can still have like welfare conversations with his employer, can't he? I don't know. Just to sort of update on the kind of things we were talking about last week about clubs getting in touch and stuff. Wigan Warriors members and season ticket holders all got a sort of letter from Ian Lenigan today to tell us, to basically tell us how the club's been getting through this period, extra money that he's put into the club, the amount of people that have been furloughed by the club, what the people who weren't furloughed were working hard to do, and that sort of stuff, and then kind of a nod to the fact that we don't expect to get all of the games that your season ticket would normally pay for this year, and that they're going to start having more conversations with fans about what options they might want fans to consider, which you can only assume that that's going to be like talking about having refunds or not, like what we've had from RFL about the Challenge Cup final and the Ashes games and stuff in recent weeks. But yeah, I felt that was a long and detailed letter, so I hope that Wigan fans have felt more updated and stuff from that, because I certainly did.
Yeah, that's positive. And you know, following on from that, although we haven't had anything of that sort, we have anybody that wants to can get a free month of Hull FC Live to watch all the stuff that they've got on. So again, yes, I've had 3 sale emails, but that's an email that I had that was giving me something for nothing.
That was a reward for fans, weren't it? Which I think is good. So our clubs, we've both seen some positives since we've kind of had our bit of a rant.
They must have been listening to us last week.
So we'll see how that goes on. That is news from around the world of Rugby League. Do get your views into us for any news stories as they come up during the week. You'll find the link to the Google form within the episode blog post that we'll talk about at the end of the show for you to click on to throw your views to us. But we're now going to go to a section where we've had plenty of views in from the listeners, and that is the match reviews. It's match reviews time then, and it is the NRL, of course, that we're talking about. Still getting to watch all the games in the NRL on Sky Sports, either live if you're not working, or catching up if you are working, or homeschooling.
Or in a trombone lesson.
Or a trombone lesson. Yeah. How did that go? Did you manage to get round to watching the game after the lesson?
We had to wait until the next day, but we did get round to watching it. Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. So it was round 5 of the NRL, and the first game played on Thursday saw the Sea Eagles come from 18-0 down against the Broncos to win 20 points to 18. Although for the Broncos, our young man on the wing, Herbie Farnworth, had 167 running metres in the game. We got a couple of fan views in.
Yep, so Always in Our Shadow said, a bit like watching Hull KR capitulate 18-0 and they fucked it up. Although the Broncos needed a dodgy penalty to win this one. Milford MIA for Manly, while DCE reminds me so much of Kevin Brown, just with more ability. And Carsten said, a game of two halves, the team in maroon shorts was shit.
Yeah,
they looked almost like a negative of each other, didn't they, their kits?
A little bit, yeah. A little bit, although I do quite like the Manly kit this year. But
I quite liked them both. It was just amusing how much they look like they should really be, like on computer games where like they have the home kit being the exact reverse of the away kit.
Yeah.
It looked like that.
Yeah. I watched this game live, but I don't remember much of it.
I watched it maybe the next day with Joshua when we discovered we couldn't get the Parramatta game at that point. And it felt like you should be talking about how it was seesaw, went one way and the other, but actually it was just boring.
It sort of felt a little bit like there was an inevitability to it, that Manly were going to win because they had the better players, and it seemed kind of almost against the run of things in a way that the Broncos had that big lead.
Yeah.
And then certainly the Sea Eagles ground it out to win it in the end.
Yeah. Yeah, because Brisbane got off to the good start, didn't they? After the commentators going on about how awful they'd been and everything else.
But I certainly think as the game went on, we saw more out of the Sea Eagles halves than we did out of the Broncos halves. Even if the Sea Eagles didn't look that creative in this game, they certainly looked more steady.
Yeah, they did enough to win, didn't they?
More involved in the game and stuff. Yeah, I think they did enough to win. It was the forward pack probably who did it more than anything. Fanua Blake and Jake Trbojevic were good, I thought.
Yeah.
But Herbie Farnworth did himself no harm in this one.
No, decent number of metres.
On to Friday. The Warriors 37, the Cowboys 26. None of our players in this one, but we got some fan views in.
Yeah, Carsten, back on first review, says the Rocks and Diamonds Warriors are back, but why the F did they choose the Cowboys for a Diamonds week? Defence was optional again. We're not playing block-shaped city anymore, but our defence seems gone. Bring on the 2021 season. And Alan Walker says, terrific game. Both these blow hot and cold. When they're both pretty warm, they serve up a good one. Nikorima's always good to watch. Shame about RTS. Hope he gets fixed up properly. They missed him today.
Yeah, Nikorima had some really good moments in the game, didn't he? I
didn't watch this one, actually.
So you could put a highlight reel together from some of the moments Nikorima had, particularly the quick tap-on pass for the try that Patrick Herbert scored. No, that was early on. It must have been one of Hiku's tries. Hiku scored a hat-trick. Hiku, he basically gave away a try to Kyle Felt. That made the scores 12-all. And no, 12-6. Sorry, made the Cowboys go ahead, but then came into his own, scored a hat-trick, had a really decent game. So sort of Hiku and Nikorima probably stood out for the Warriors, but the Cowboys' goal line defense was kind of resembled Leeds Rhinos' goal line defence of last year. Really, it wasn't there where it needed to be. But at the same time, Valentine Holmes picked up an injury, and that kind of caused them to be shuffled around when actually that was very early on that he got injured, but he played through most of the first half before going off. But yeah, it was a well-deserved victory for the Warriors in the end. So well done to them.
Yep.
The other game on Friday, the later game, was probably one of the games of the season so far. The two unbeaten teams as they went into this one. It was the Eels versus the Panthers, and it was 16-10 to the Eels.
It was, and Alan Walker said, "What a game. Thought they got it wrong the first half. The pennies were slippery and the Eels were just pussies. The Prince of TikTok ran the game on his return. Then the King and Moses took over. Boom. Big hits and crazy shots. Even though Moses missed a dead set easy extra point, the Eels wiggled out clear to win it. Roosters next." And Joshua's granddad said, "Fantastic defence from the Panthers from the first minute. Unfortunately, the game lasts 80 minutes, not 60. Massive hits and effort made the game so watchable. Loved the effort from Paolo. Builders Cleary versus Moses, no clear winner, but Moses proved he ain't a Sneed with a shit effort which left his team hanging on."
Yeah, very exciting game, wasn't it, Sarah?
It was. And again, so I felt like this was an end-to-end toss and turning and all the rest of it, but it just had the excitement that the Sea Eagles Broncos didn't have, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It was kind of because it always felt a little bit like the Panthers were clinging on, but they were clinging on so well, and actually they have a couple of players that you look at in that side, particularly Kickow, and I think Coruscant was very good in this game as well. But Kickow's so exciting that he almost could do something at any point, but unfortunately for him, I think they leaned on him probably too much, and he ended up knackered. I think that left edge actually, Kickow and Crichton both were a bit tired by the end of the game, and maybe that played a little bit into the Eels' hands, and they scored some really, really good tries to close out the close win in the end, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think like early doors when the Eels had all of that pressure and possession and everything else, didn't score, you thought, is it a case that they've had their possession and have failed to score and it's all going to get tipped the other way now? But actually, they sort of stayed composed, didn't they? And, I must credit Mystic Joshua because he did say 10-0. He's like, it's going to be like Wembley 2016 where they come back and win it. It's okay.
Yeah, and I think ultimately they did deserve it. Gufferson and Mattison's tries were particularly, good to watch, I thought, and I just think they showed their steel and their resilience and this Eel side, they're looking good at the top of the table with those sort of qualities in them, because the Panthers were not an easy beat.
No, but yeah, they didn't panic when they weren't turning possession into points, I felt.
Yeah, fair shout.
Which it is very easy to do.
Moving on to a team that involved one of our players, the Rabbitohs. They smashed the Titans 32 points to 12. Tom Burgess with over 213 metres for the only Burgess left standing in the NRL.
Did we talk about metres last week? Did I bring it up or not?
No.
Because Zach Hardacre reckons that the metres are measured differently in Australia.
I agree. They must be.
I'm sure. Well, or was he questioning how they can all make so many metres? And someone responded and said the difference is in Australia, the metres are measured from the point at which the player takes the ball, not the point at which they pass where the previous tackle finished. If that makes sense.
It does make sense. They must be doing something slightly differently, because you see week after week people going over 200 metres when we just know that isn't the reality that we see in Super League. So there must be something different. Now, the ball is in play more now, but this, Taumalolo is a bit of a freak, so you can't use his numbers necessarily to base everyone else's on. But even for the last few years, you've noticed that